Time for Game Time predictions. Ohio State's last visit to Rutgers as a Big Ten East rival hasn't gone the Scarlet Knights' way here for the past decade, ever. And Ohio State favored again by 18, 19 points going into this weekend. But our Game Time decisions, these are like the critical sort of like game strategy things that could be at stake for Ohio State and things that they need to focus on for Saturday to come out of there with another win from East Rutherford. Sorry, not East Rutherford. Piscataway. There's East Brunswick right there too. It's confusing. Stephen, what is your Game Time decision?
So Trayon Henderson didn't play for 3 weeks, and then they gave him the ball 24 times, and he turned it into 162 yards, including a game-sealing 33-yard touchdown at the end of that game. I don't think they need to give him the ball 24 times to beat Rutgers. I don't think. Rutgers has a good defense, but I don't think. So I am interested to see in a game where I wouldn't peg this as give Trayon Henderson the ball 20 times unless some weird stuff happens and they end up having this being a 4-quarter game. I'm wondering what the carry breakdown looks like between Trayon Henderson as your clear number one, healthy again, well, as healthy as it can be, Chip Traynham, and does Dallin Hayden get involved at all, which is, it's been a season-long conversation with Dallin Hayden, but especially that 1 and 2, what does that breakdown look like in this week where we're not really sure if it's going to be a 4-quarter game and you don't necessarily need Trayon to be a workhorse for you?
Andrew, your Game Time decision for Saturday.
Wouldn't be a game time decision if I didn't talk about the offensive line. So I'm going to say, what does the running game efficiency look like? And the word there I think that is key is efficiency, because Steven's right. This is not a game where I don't think you're going to rely on Trayon Henderson to touch the ball 30 times. I don't think you're going to have to do that. If you do, maybe something's gone haywire. Maybe there is pandemonium in Piscataway. But I think what's going to happen with Trayon Henderson is going to be important, and it's going to be telling whether it happens on 10 carries, whether it happens on 15 or 30, because I'm curious to see how this offensive line and how this run game builds off of last week. Trayon, I believe, had over 6 yards of carry last week. And when you have 162 yards and you're able to hit some of those shot plays like that, that is big. And we've talked about this run game all season long kind of being a problem. Well, Donovan Jackson tonight said that it's a little bit like chopping wood. Sometimes the tree's not going to fall on the first one, whether you like that cliche or not. I think it's true. And I think this is one of those steps that you're going to have to see. We talked about the offensive line progressing throughout the year. Well, you've got 3 games before Michigan. And I thought last week was an improvement against Wisconsin. This week had better also be an improvement against Rutgers, or else I think you're really starting to have some concerns going into that Michigan game if you didn't have them already. So I'm curious to see what the running game efficiency looks like. I'm pretty high on Kyle McCord. Watch our other video. I think he's going to have a really nice day. But what does the run game efficiency looks like, whether you carry the ball 15 times or 50 times?
And I'm going to talk about Kyle McCord coming home for a homecoming game. His dad was a quarterback at Rutgers. It's a big deal for him. There's going to be a lot of friends and family there. He's obviously got other things that he's focused on, though, and it's about continuing development, continuing to take steps towards being the quarterback that he wants to be for that Michigan game. And in last week's game, was a game that was marked by, obviously he gets banged up and he makes some great throws in that game, but you also have, I thought that was the first week where it's like, okay, maybe this is just too many times where he's dancing on the edge a little bit, and it was going the wrong way, whether it was the red zone interception, whether it was the intentional groundings, one of which was very close to being a fumble, whether it was the actual fumble on the 4th down sack. It's been trending a little bit loose, and I think this is a week where, how does he show that he's starting to tighten that up, that he can make a better decision when that pocket collapses, whether that is taking the step up and doing something else, whether that's just taking the sack sometimes rather than and being secure with it rather than letting it get loose. It's kind of a fine line. I don't think he's that far away. I don't think these are major changes that he has to make to the way that he plays the game. I think some of it is just maybe an awareness that accumulates over time. The more you get to play, the more reps you take at full speed, full contact, as most people know, that is not how practices are done. They're not out here just smashing into Kyle McCord in preseason camp in the spring. Those guys are kept away from contact because they want to keep them healthy because of now what you see now the last couple weeks with Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. So I just want to see, does he look a little bit more sure of himself in those moments this week? And then does he look a little more sure of himself in those moments the next week? And then the next week. They've got this 3-game runway that takes him into Michigan, and he's just, I think, got it. The word I kept using was stability after the game. I think if he makes a step forward in stability, then it starts to ratchet up the floor, at least, of what this offense is, and potentially the ceiling, too, because God knows they have a lot of playmakers, and they get one of them back this week in Emeka Egbuka. So get the text, 614-350-3315. Everything we're seeing on the field as far as injuries and where guys are lining up before the game, that's where we go with it first from cleveland.com.